Okay, hey, welcome to the community podcast. Like I said, we're starting a new season here in our studio here at Big Condo Radio, and we're welcoming like two of our first guests. But again, well, they both been here before, and I enjoyed our conversations, and I wanted them to come back in together. I may have should not have asked for that, but either way, I'm welcoming back James Diboe,
Yep.
and Patrick Graham, who's also been here at Big Condo when we were in our old studios. And Patrick is a recent author. So me and James talked about his book, where he's going to talk more about his book, Three Little Jamaicans. But first, what I wanted to kind of talk about is because I feel that education is very important, especially in these times. I mean, despite the fact that Black Lives always matters, I think what's important is education, and like for young people to hear very profound statements from older generations, not like you're that old, but you know what I mean, for from the wise of the heritage and everything. So when we talked last time, James, you only got to share a little bit about your travels. You're well traveled. You've been actually studying indigenous tribes across various different countries and everything.
Yep.
And you can only give us a little bit about it. But when we talked, you also mentioned about working with Patrick, who's also a good old friend of mine and everything. And I thought, well, let me get both of you in together
Good.
and stuff like that, because on the one hand, is I know you can't speak too much about it, but I will say that we did mention a project that you guys hope to get started called the Return Project. Can you just give us a little taste of that?
We're still early stages, but I just thought it was a great idea to come with a cultural exchange. Now, this is something that I thought about a long time ago. Now, it's Nazra Elliott who's obviously leading the project, and it's myself, Patrick, and Raz Congo. We're in early stages of it, but hopefully, as we can get things going. It's a bit of a problem time now because of what we got going
Yeah.
on. But it sounds great. I've got great feedback off it. But
Yeah.
it's early stages at the moment, so I don't want to put too much on it. But we've
No,
got
no, but I think what's important about it is
Yeah.
it's the idea behind the
the
project.
idea.
Well,
And the idea behind the project is the
Yeah.
education of young
Well,
people.
yeah, because as a general overview, because as I said, we're still in planning stages. As a general overview, it's a project to get five young black male and five young black females, aged between 16 and 19, take them over to Central Africa, which at the moment it's Rwanda that we'll be going to, and to give them an insight onto the cultural history of that place in particular, and and a little bit of a holiday obviously as well in there,
Yeah.
and just to as I said, just to enhance that heritage,
Yeah, I mean, because
ultimate heritage feeling, and give them a taste of what it's like in parts of Africa. And some background to that particular place. As I said, it's not fully finalised yet exactly how it will operate, but there'll be a couple of workshops on the build-up. When we go over there, there'll be a few workshops. We'll get to meet various locals over there and tribes people, so we'll see different aspects of their life, from the modern to to the traditional, so to speak, and the mix of the two, and give them that.
well, reason why I wanted you to mention again, I mean, even though James mentioned it before, is because obviously this is all, how should I say, considerate of financing, and I just think that, like, is there any way, like, do you have like a website or anything that people can at least look out for, or should they just look out for the Return Project and how they can support such a project?
Well, on Facebook, we've got a presence where we've got a Return Project page and a
There you
Return
go.
Project group. So we'll be developing a website at a later stage, but
Yeah.
at the moment, they're the main sources of information, just to get updates. At the moment,
No,
we've
that's-
just issued. We've got a slideshow on there giving an overview of what the itinerary that will take place from before we leave to when we get there to what will come back. That's not set in stone, but
Yeah.
it's just, as I said, it's just an overview, a template of what we envisage that it will all
Yeah.
entail.
Well, James, I mean, like, you're the traveling man here. I mean, from your last time, you also had various like pictures and videos and everything. Can you like just give us, like, the audience, like, an idea, like, was Rwanda a particular choice for people to kind of like get their first taste of such an experience? Or
Well, it wasn't actually the first choice. We were actually looking at, I think it was Sierra Leone or possibly Ghana.
yeah,
But we actually have a person over there called Raz Congo. He's part of the project. He's in Rwanda, and he seems like he knows what he's doing, and he can have the thing set up from his side, and then we have it set up from our sides, workshops going, different things. But the whole idea of the experience, because sometimes you get people, they never go to Africa one
No.
time in their life.
exactly.
You know, it's always important. I mean, I've been about 5 African countries,
Yeah.
but I want to go all over soon. I want to go every single one.
I,
But,
I mean,
But,
in my later years, I actually am more and more fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And I think that the media has really painted a horrible picture, and everything. And you were actually saying to me when we're talking in show notes, like a lot of times we're told to call it Black history, and you said it's African history.
Well, this is how I'm taught from a youth, because you have to understand, on my mum's side is Trinidad, so we went through the slave trade.
Yeah.
On my father's side, Nigerian. So I got to see both sides, and that was interesting. And from the Nigerian side, it's the culture's intact. Not saying, don't get me wrong, there were certain Yoruba cultures that were kept, like look at Haiti.
Yeah.
You know, in certain places, you'd be surprised where African culture still kept.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, where the solid core of the culture. I know obviously there's religion in that came from other places and that, but
Yeah.
the core of African culture, I mean, my tribe's Ijo. So when we're talking about tribes, I was told as a kid what tribe I am.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, and it's important, and, you know, I haven't actually been Nigeria yet. This is the funny
Really?
thing, I mean, because the reason why I haven't been, we've been planning for years to go, but you've got to go, like, on good terms where it's the right people you're meeting there. With family, basically I'm going to go with family.
Yeah.
So we've got to go when we're all ready.
Yeah.
But I'm really look forward to it.
Well, I mean, I think another important part of our conversation that we had was the fact that we don't really get a lot of or pretty much any Black history education in schools. And when we were talking previously, Patrick, you were talking about like various different elements, which I found fascinating, about how like history, or what we know as history, has been corrupted. Now, I mean, just kind of like, what do you mean by that, in the sense where is it lost? Is it not being taught? Or
What I mean, because even the term Black history itself, I use that term quite regular.
Yeah.
But in reality, like, just to give you examples, when I've done workshops in schools, I will ask children, well, tell me something about Black history. And 99.99 times out of 100, they'll say the slave trade,
Exactly.
this trade, that. And I'll say, well, okay, so who was involved in the slave trade? They'll look puzzled and say, well, Africans, Black people. I said, well, where were they taken to and enslaved? He said, well, the Caribbean, the Americas. I said, who took them there? And then that's when the penny drops, and they'll say, well, Europeans, white people. I say, so therefore, how can it be just called Black history? If Europeans are white, then why is it's clearly have shared history?
Yeah.
So it's not Black history, it's not European history, it's just part of world history.
Yeah.
So just to give an example, the reason I use the term Black history is because when I say corrupted, because a lot of the important aspects, because slavery is clearly a part of world history, clearly a part of what happened with Black people in history from Africa, but it's only, as I said, a part.
Yeah.
What about, like when I pose a question to youngsters in school and I say, well, tell me something about this Black history before slavery, 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, I get looked at like I've just started speaking in some ancient forgotten language.
Yeah.
As if to say, well, there is no such Black history before slavery. And that's what I mean by corrupted, because slavery lasted what? At the most 400 years.
Yeah, 16th century, yeah.
At the most 400 years, where history in Africa goes back. And when we say history, we're not just talking Africa, but world history, because when we use the terms history, history is used as a time period, obviously, because, you're talking back in the past. But when they use the term history, they're talking the last, say, 5,000 to 6,000 years at the most, so 4,000 BC. That's when history starts officially in what is seen as mainstream academia.
Yeah.
And they talk about and the reason they use that term, because it's only when they accept that recognised writing started at that time,
Yeah.
roughly 4000 BC, and anything before that was what they call prehistoric times or prehistory, which to me, it's quite. I don't really like them terms. I think, well, it's a bit of a nonsense, because they're saying, well, history's passed down orally from them times, and there's even scholars who will go as far as saying Black Africa had no written history. It's had none and didn't have none, which is a total. That's why I talk about corrupted, because that's a total lie. Because written history in Africa goes back thousands of years. The documents will prove it. That, you know, people, just to highlight the most famous black civilization in Africa is Egypt.
Yeah.
And they had writing. You know what I mean? They had various forms of writing over the different eras. So to say that they didn't have any, you know, and then you look in parts.
Well, it's all a glyphs. That's writing.
Because
it's just picture writing.
Well, it's writing. It's communication. Call it Chinese is pictures.
Well, calligraphy, yeah.
Yeah, Chinese writing is pictures, but it's still accepted as writing.
No, exactly. I agree with you.
Again, to talk about corrupted, there's a lot of things and achievements throughout the course of this black history, what it gets pushed into that bracket. It almost undermines it as real history by calling it black history. It's like the term a black writer. I'm a writer of children books.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make me a black writer, even if it's about a black experience. I'm just a writer. Because C.S. Lewis, who wrote about 4 young children's adventures, is not called a white writer, he's just called a writer. You know, so...
I love it when people say stuff like that.
No, well, it is.
No, it's true. I said it.
To call someone a black writer in so-called... Because what mainstream means is the powers that be.
Yeah.
And as soon as you say mainstream black writer, that means it's something different, something less, and it's not.
Totally.
It's not at all.
Totally.
And black history is not anything less than world history, because things are left out, just ignored. So if you go to school and people say, oh, we're going to talk about black history next month in October, Black History Month, they will just focus on slavery. So that's a true part of history, but it's a negative part. So people feel away, black people feel away when that's being taught, and there's no mention, and they're oblivious to it because they're only young children, so you're never taught anything. You just assume, you know, I look at it from a personal experience. When as a youngster, you just assume, well, did we just appear from thin air and then become slaves, but we didn't exist before the 1700s type of thing? And that's the psychological impression it gives. So that's the part of the corruption of black history.
It's like when you're first starting off when you're younger, because when I first was researching, I was researching like quite young, you know, to be honest, about more than 20 years ago. But serious research in the last, say, 14 years, you know. But when I started seeing how global we are, and not just how global, it's when I started studying. I heard about Egypt from young, but then I started studying when people reconstruct, and it's like they done it in South America even. They showed Lucia, the way the first skull found in Ethiopia was called Lucia. Yeah. Now they found one in Lucia. They found one in Brazil, Lucia. And
is that where it came from?
Yeah. So Mongolians, they said cross the Bering Land Bridge to get to the New World. But really they've shown you people with a connection, either Australasians and also Africans. There's many different evidences of different kinds of people being in America, and there's many different times Africans got to the America. The Olmecs we talked about last time.
Yeah.
Now I learned that from Ivan van Sertima, and he's the guy who mentored Renoco Rashidi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and obviously you know what Renoco Rashidi's done. He is on the global African presence, and he's been a great help. Renoco Rashidi, because how I first discovered him was interesting, because I wasn't even actually looking at African history. I went to Hawaii because I wanted to see the Hawaiian people. Yeah. And I was researching about Fiji, and then he's on an interview speaking about the Fijians. He went there. So I went to Fiji, and then I found out that they said, well, we're African too. Yeah. So when I started seeing people like, because this will get ignored, you see. If you speak to a scholar, he'll tell you that the Fijians didn't come from Africa. They came from Southeast Asia. But the Fijians, in their oral traditions, teaching the schools, they came from Lake Tanganyika in East Africa, which is Tanzania area. So we can't ignore all the time. I know you can't say science is the answer to everything.
Yeah.
But they're still getting better, you know. But Africans have always been global. He talks about, even in Japan, the ancient samurais, these are all black people. In ancient China. But you got to remember, the Chinese are not going to give us our history as well. We have to go and find it ourselves.
That's because
You know?
China's in Africa. Is that what you mean?
No, what I'm saying is Africans have been, through trade routes,
Yeah.
you know, Africans, when they go into China, go into India, thousands of years ago, though, 5,000 years ago, and you can see they did trade, you know. And now here's an interesting one. Why are all these statues and all the artifacts depicted of African people in ancient China?
Don't go there, bro.
This is what I'm saying. So you wouldn't like in Cambodia, even like looking, I went to Nadia, it's Angkor Wat, but you've got to go to Angkor Thom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go to this area, you'll see the Bayan temples clearly look like Africans, just like the Olmecs. Now,
Yeah.
why would other people want to build something of people looking like us unless you're ruling
Not
or
like themselves.
you've got to
Yeah.
influence that?
No,
you know?
exactly. Because it's also like the Moors, Carthage, all those places.
But
Yeah.
this history,
Yeah.
why it's important,
Yeah.
because just remember, over the last basically 200 years, because the concept of race and racism is a modern phenomenon. It's not something that goes back thousands of years. It's a modern phenomenon. Even at the beginning of slavery, there was no concept of racism.
Yeah,
in
it's
that
a form of
respect.
separatism, isn't it?
It developed shortly after that, because it then became a weapon to justify slavery and to further it, to go into Africa and conquer it. So by doing that, you had to then dismiss any of the real history of Africa and reduce them to savages with no history, no writing, no nothing, no
That's
contribution to the world stage on any form, whether it be literature, medicine, science, astrology, all these different things, no contribution. So that helped to demonize and almost animalize these people to be able to justify and fear the slavery and colonialism. So that racism became a modern concept of the late 1700s, and then they developed it and developed pseudoscience from it by saying, oh, people are naturally this and they're naturally that and they're naturally stupid and naturally not as intelligent. So that was all done, and that's again another example of the corruption of history.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like when we, in our conversation, when I was telling you about the city of Carthage and about how like there's actually pictures depicted of someone with wings. You know, like they built wings for like flight, you know, but it's always attributed to Leonardo da Vinci, who refers to done something like this. But, you know, because I'm from Harlem, bro, so in the Schomburg Library, you'll actually find these books. But it's like what you just said about burying, you know, like our true potential, because I mean we only know it if we look in the 19th century, like Black Wall Street and I think the doctor who came up with a cure for polio or something like that, because they had yellow fever in one of the towns and stuff like that. So, but those things are like buried. You can find them like if you're looking in the patent office or something like that.
No, well, yeah, because that justifies it. So if you want to convince a population that we need to
we are
be
weaker.
dominant, we're a superior race over this particular race, which in science is no such thing, but you know, nevertheless we'll use the term for the basis of the conversation. If you want to dominate a race over another race, then you have to do that by creating a reason to be able to claim that superiority. So if straight away, if you're teaching people, well, these had no history, they had no nothing, they never contributed to
Take it
anything,
all away,
then you're going to assume wrongfully that, well, we are the be all and end all of it all, and we are entitled people and entitled race, if you want to call it that. So to teach proper history breaks down all them barriers, stops the racism, stops the stereotypes, and actually leads to less conflict. But the people in power don't want that, because race is a modern construct to use to dominate and gain power. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what they do from it. So, you know, it's constantly corrupted. It's constantly, you know, an example, you know, as we say about, I'll use Egypt because that's seen as the greatest civilization in ancient history. You know what I mean? So you'll have Western scholars who'll say things like the ancient Egyptians weren't black. But then in the same sentence, they'll say, but we don't know what colour he was. And I think, well,
Yeah, but
that goes
when
against
you talking
science.
about statuary, I mean, all of the kings and everything.
Well, you'd
was
only
all
have to
about-
look at the pictures
Yeah,
inside the tombs.
or the actual statues
the
itself.
statues, all these different
Yeah.
things, the little statues, the artifacts, afro combs that, you know, when I had hair back
yeah.
in the day, you'd stick in the back, you'd stick in the back of your head. You know what I mean? There's afro combs in them same designs that were found in the Egyptian tombs. You know, why would they have them?
There's plenty
Because
of
they're
evidence.
needed for the purpose to comb afro hair.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
There's so much evidence.
Yes.
It's not even about the writings. It's
Yeah.
the physical evidence that you see with
Well,
your
it was,
naked eye.
it was supposedly it was all like whitewashed or scrubbed off the walls by Napoleon when he got trapped over there.
Yeah, there's an
Not all
example.
of it. A lot of it was damaged,
yeah.
and a lot of it was preserved. Because how I always look at things, in order to tell the best lie, you have to know the truth.
Ooh,
So if you know the
check
truth, you
out.
can tell the best lie possible because you know
Yeah.
exactly how to
I like
construct it to hide the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Someone who's just making something up is just making something up. You easily found out. So you go away, like the Germans did, like the Napoleon, the French did. You go away and research all this history to its maximum and find out all these spectacular and wonderful things about, you know, I said, about what black people have contributed to world history.
Yeah.
And then you can then cover that up the best by making the greatest lie because you know
Such
the
a
actual
shame.
truth.
It's like,
and you
here's
can
an
hide
example.
the artifacts, you can
It's-
misrepresent them and everything.
Yeah.
Look at that word, sub-Saharan Africa, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with that. So you see North Africa, they don't consider it as sub-Saharan Africa.
Right.
So they've always like decided these people who live above the Sahara are clearly light-skinned or white people or Eurasian people. That's the term
Yeah,
they
yeah.
use, yeah. And then obviously little factors hit them later, you know. So you see in Libya, you've got the black mummy, you know, one of the very old mummifications.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it is a black young child, mummified. And you know by reconstruction, you can clearly see the features. Also the DNA on it, they see it's sub-Saharan African DNA. But don't forget, a lot of the ancient Egyptians would have had sub-Saharan DNA.
Yeah.
Because they came from the south, Disney. You know, the same with even in Uganda.
Yeah.
Uganda, according to Dr. Ben, Yosha Ben Yachanan, he says it starts down in Uganda, the civilization. But then you can look at like Congo, they got the Ashango bone. And now it's different dates, like I tell you all the time. I see
Yeah,
20
yeah.
to 25,000 years ago. Then you see another date, 35,000 years ago. So dates can contest with each other.
Right.
You know,
Just to feed off that,
Yeah.
you can read just about any book on Egypt, from a child's book to a scholar's book on Egypt, and they will all tell you the same narrative from the beginning, that people migrated down the Nile or up the Nile, depending on your perspective, i.e. coming from what would be deep into Eastern Africa, so
Yeah.
Uganda, Ethiopia, Sudan, them type of regions. People migrated down the Nile or up the Nile to the Delta, which opens out onto the Mediterranean, but migrated down there and created that civilization of Egypt. Now, in order to do that, simple logic tells you, people didn't just say, well, okay, we're going to migrate. And when people migrate, people don't migrate everybody. Yeah. So if you, let's just say, just to put a figure on it, just for semantics, if you said there was 1 million people lived in that area down the Nile, maybe 100,000 would migrate.
Yeah.
So when you're migrating, you're taking with you information,
Right.
the history, the technology, the science, the medicine. You're taking all these things with you because
Yeah.
you don't have the people who don't have this knowledge, because when you're migrating, you're looking to set up a new home.
Oh,
So in
definitely.
order to do that, you need to bring with you the expertise in order to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
There'll
Yeah.
be people who, obviously within them, who haven't got that expertise, but there has to be people with it. So
Right.
it's not like Egypt just was born out of nothing.
Development.
They were bringing the same technology with them to create that, and
Yeah.
it developed over a long period of time, hundreds of years, even thousands of years. So because what you've got to remember is things don't last forever.
Right.
Yeah, you've got satellite imagery of Egypt. That's a recent technique that's used over the last maybe 10 years, and it will show you that there's so many structures, and not just in Egypt, they do it all over the world, but in Egypt in particular, there's so many structures that are uncovered in there, which actually far bigger and greater in size than the structures that are known. to
Yeah.
modern day archaeology. In order to be able to excavate it is a massive undertaking, you know, and there's no one prepared to fund that at present. But you know, there's so much, and that is like anywhere. People say, oh, this happened. It takes all these hundreds of thousands of years, and it doesn't, because look, just as an example, look what happened in the Mayan jungles. You know, within a couple hundred years, if that, it was overgrown.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
overgrown with trees and this and that and hidden. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And then it was so called this. How can you discover something when the locals took you there and then you're classed as discovering it? You know,
Oh,
how did Edmund Hillary conquer Everest, the first man to get up Everest, when he had Sherpas telling him,
How to
leading him
get
the
there.
way? So
That means they went up.
they didn't just stand at the bottom and say, well, follow me.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
reckon
yeah.
this is the best.
Yeah.
You've clearly been up there before to be able to lead him up there. But history, you
I
go in
haven't
any
thought
history
about
book,
that.
it'll tell you that he's the first
like-
man to climb
it's like
Everest,
different kind of
which is
pyramids.
clearly not true.
It's like
because he had
different kind of
Sherpas who led him up
What?
there.
Remember you were saying last time, different kind of pyramids.
Yeah.
If you look at mounds in Africa,
Yeah.
you know, before even people thought of even doing a pyramid, I mean, I know Sudan's pyramids are old and they've got more, but even
Yeah.
like before that, you've got mounds, giant mounds.
Yeah, the big footprints, like the
Not-
giant.
oh, let's not take it to the.
Right. Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I mean-
Don't get me started.
Because some people, I'm open to discussion on certain things and
I'm
stuff.
not going there, don't worry
I
about
mean,
it.
no problem. I'm a fair person, you know. I will listen and
Yeah.
stuff, but we can't discredit our ancestors
Yeah.
or what we've been through, whether they've came directly from Africa or you've been during the slave trade. Our knowledge is being robbed.
No, it's
You know what I'm saying? So I can't give an alien credit.
Oh no! But
You
it's
know,
just that I saw a documentary
funny,
on
it's funny,
megalithic structures,
Yeah,
on
yeah,
large
yeah.
megalithic structures,
Yeah.
and I'm just saying, Jesus Christ.
It's funny though.
No.
I've got a sense
Anyway,
of it.
we're here to talk about Patrick's book.
I like put things like that in context. Just to finish up on the history bit, I like put things like that in context. Is just looking at it from a layman's person.
Yeah,
If I look at television,
yeah,
you know, I can look at it as an adult, but I will think of how does it work through the same mind that I did when I was a child of 5 or 6, looking in the back of it, thinking, how the hell do you get the people so little in the back?
Yeah.
Because that's just mind blowing.
Yeah.
So, you know, even in modern times, you could say, well, how do you do television? But even though I can't do it myself, you
Yeah,
give me all the
yeah.
wires and the material, and I'll never be able to build a television. But I know man built it.
Yeah,
These structures, no matter how profound and giant and modern man is very arrogant, not ignorant, very arrogant to
When he
actually-
doesn't have
to
the
actually
distraction.
believe that because this is 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, there's no way they could have built that.
I know,
So
that's true.
then who did?
Yeah, somebody.
No.
Clearly humans built it because
Yeah.
human sculptures are there, human pictures are there,
Yeah.
human history tells you we built it. We come from there, that's our origins.
No.
Who else
You know.
could have? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, anyway, you know, I mean, like, but the main thing here, first of all, again, you gentlemen are very fascinating, and you need to have your own program. But Three Little Jamaicans, written by Patrick Graham. Now, what I want to, reason why I thought this was very interesting is because one, we know each other, but like as far as I've known you for years, you've always been a writer, you've been a poet, you dabbled into directing and all this other kind of stuff. But the main thing about it is I'm surprised, finally, your first foray into writing a story. So but it was funny how you said you came up with this ages ago when we were on a course. But tell us about Three Little Jamaicans and the
Well, yeah,
inspiration.
Three Little Jamaicans, here's the book, this is what it looks like. There's actually a second edition which is very similar in cover to this one. And the second edition just has a few more pictures in it than the first one, because for me reading a book is all about imagination. It's not about pictures and images. Then pictures and images are to be generated in the mind. For me anyway, if you want pictures and images, as I say, watch a movie and you get loads of pictures and images, but a book is for me to use the imagination and create your own images, because that's what I enjoyed when I read stories as a kid. You know, one of my favourites was The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. I'll always quote that because I really loved that story. That one in particular, in the book that came before it, The Magician's Nephew, and I was able to put myself in place of them children.
Why
be
not?
one of the children or in place of them, and imagine, you know, I was on this adventure. So I loved all that type of thing. So for me, when I first wrote this book, The Three Little Jamaicans, it was actually on a radio production course, and it was wrote as a radio play originally. This is going back like 15 years. And what I then realised is at the time was, you know, it's a story, as I said, it's about three little Jamaicans, but it's for anybody to read because it's three little children. So any child, wherever you're from, can relate to how these children carry on.
So they go on an adventure, though, don't they? I know you don't want to spoil anything.
Well, yeah, I can't give any details.
No, but the reason why I brought it up was because, like here, I mean, from America, we had like the Hardy Boys. Here, you had like the five, you know, whatever, five go somewhere. So this is three little kids, and I mean, this is like an adventure story, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because what it is these are three little children who they're in England while the father's working. So the adventure that they go on, it literally just takes place over one afternoon.
Yeah.
All in the same day, over one afternoon. And it's narrated by the youngest of the three. There's two twin sisters, Winsome and Blossom, and they've got a younger, they're 9 years old.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and they've got a younger brother called Lenky, who's 7 years old, and the story is told through the eyes of Lenky. He narrates the story and takes us on that journey that him and his sisters go on over this afternoon, this little adventure. Well, you know, the father's referenced in the story, but he's not actually part of the story, so to speak. And I've described it as an adventure with sibling rivalry, bit of mystery and spooky, with a twist in the tale. But that's how I've described it.
But what I like about it is kind of like when you were talking about like writing it on an like a radio play, and at the time you were saying, well, we don't have like actors for this, you know, and it's just great that you found an outlet for this story. And I think it's everyone's story, you know what I mean? I mean, like, if it was like Three Little White Kids, you know, it'd probably be on a bestseller list or Barnes & Noble or something. But, I mean, like, why shouldn't there be a story about these three kids? And why shouldn't more people get to experience it and everything? And that's why what I liked is when I asked you, like, well, how did you get it published? And you self-published this. Because it means so much to you to get this out?
Well, yeah, definitely. You know, I went down the self-publishing route because I know to find a publisher, for anybody to find a publisher is extremely difficult, and then to find a publisher as a black person writing with three little black children on the front cover is even more difficult again in today's society. And you know, I've said this before, I'll say it again. When I was a child growing up, there's no book that I ever saw with three or one or two little black children on the front cover, let alone entailed in the story. And any black children or people who were in the story were always just negative characters that
or
you
the
just want
side
to distance yourself from rather than associate yourself with.
Yeah, like or a side character, supporting role or something, and everything. So where could people, if they want to purchase this book, where could they do
Well,
that?
you can get the book off. The primary place to get it is via Amazon. You go into Amazon, you look it up. As I said, there's a second edition out which says that on the cover, but it depends what you fancy. The second edition does maybe 4 or 5 pictures in, where the first edition doesn't have any pictures in. And for me, it's all about the imagination. You conjure up your own pictures in your mind. I've said to people, if you were someone who's 50, 60 years old, because although primarily it's a children's book, like with any book, it's for anyone.
Yeah, but it's
who wants
like
to
if I
enjoy
had
it.
an adventure as a kid, I can easily read this story
Well,
as
yeah,
well.
you can relate to it because you was a child once, so straight away, adults have said it's took them back to their childhood. You
Yeah,
know.
well, because we're here, and that's the time when you leave your house in the daytime and you come home in time for dinner and
And you go out
everything.
and play,
And I, you know, you guys know it more than I do being from here. It's like, you know, you're out in the woods.
Yeah,
you know,
go out and play. So the story, you know, the story's inspired by my older siblings. 2 older sisters and brother were born in Jamaica, and they came here as 3 little Jamaicans.
I got it.
They were a lot younger than the children in this story, but that was the initial inspiration for it.
Yeah.
And some of the story has got some true characters in it, real life characters who exist. Some of my family members who live in Jamaica or lived, you know, 1 or 2 have passed away who've mentioned in it. And then some of the little bits about Lenky, you know, I've took from my own childhood, you know, little snippets and put in there and wove this story together. So it's a fun little adventure. People seem to get the wrong impression, where because it's called The Three Little Jamaicans, the full title is The Three Little Jamaicans English Adventure, but people get the wrong impression because it's called The Three Little Jamaicans and you see three little black kids on the front, that it's a book just for black people. And they think,
well, no, but this is what I was trying to say.
That's the misconception, because The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is two little white girls and two little white boys. That doesn't mean I couldn't have enjoyed that as a black person.
No, exactly. And unfortunately, as kids, that's what we were forced to read, wasn't it? Like I said, from like the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, Artemis Fowl, even. You know, that's what we had to. But we didn't have to be of their nationality to enjoy the story.
To enjoy it, because you were a child and you could do exactly what that child was doing, go on the same adventure. The fact of their colour is totally irrelevant to me. It's just that for me it was a topic, it was a theme, and that's what I went with.
Yeah.
As I said, initially it was a radio play, and there was difficulty in getting people who could do an accent of a young Jamaican child. You know what I mean? I can do a Jamaican accent, but as an adult I find it impossible to do a young Jamaican child's accent. So I left it, it's collected dust on the computer for 2 or 3 years, and then I decided to change it to a story, which I did. Collected dust again for another year or so, then I gave it out to people to read. I got some really positive feedback, but I just left it again. Gave it out to read again a few years later, got some more really good feedback. Even this time I involved children reading it and got some really good feedback, and took into account at least 1 or 2 of the things that they pointed out. I said, well, okay, I will address them in the story, which I did. And I left it again, and it wasn't until just over a year ago I was driving in a taxi, having a conversation with the passengers, as you do, and as a taxi man you get into all sorts of interesting conversations.
Exactly.
And someone was saying, you know, because I was saying, I do writing, I do this, poetry, creative writing, plays, and he said, have you published? And I looked at them quite bemused, as if to say, nah, not me. You know what I mean?
It wasn't that, and it wasn't that difficult to self-publish, was it?
And then they told me about that. Oh, you can actually self-publish via Amazon. It doesn't cost you nothing. It's this, it's that. You know, obviously your own promoter, your own agent, your own whatever. You know, so after, and I'd done nothing about it. It wasn't until a friend of mine, Fiona Arush, published a book during lockdown called Japoko, and she encouraged me and said, you know, you need to get your book out there. So I eventually committed myself on Facebook by doing a little mini video blog saying, or vlog, or whatever you call them, saying, right, I'm going to publish a book by the end of the month. This was the beginning of June, and then actually, because I'd said it, I had to do it. So I've done it. Which that was the easy part. For me, the difficult part now is getting the publicity that you want. It's still early days. It's only been 2 months since it's been published. You know, so I've got to generate all my publicity myself. I've gone on local radio. I've had an article in local press. I use obviously social media. And then I'm hoping.
And obviously, you're here at Big Condo Radio. Thank you very much.
Picture of John Barnes as well. I like that one.
Oh, I like that picture of John Barnes.
Done well there.
Well, I've even got football celebrity, who, Liverpool legend John Barnes has got a copy of the book. And,
well, you know, I mean, you know, I'm always available for a picture. Either way, that brings us to the end of our program. But seriously, well done and congratulations, Patrick. I mean, I just wanted to commend you on doing that. Also, too, is on the knowledge that you both share and have individually and together. I think that, you know, the project, the Return Project, is something that people should actually look out for, how they could support it and how they could get it going.
Also, you know, last time I talked about me and Patrick were waiting to do PowerPoints in the Caribbean Centre. Now, at the moment, it's difficult to get an arena. Plus, as well, if we do have one, it might only be 25 to 30 people that can attend. But it's a difficult situation. We might even have to look for another arena. But
well, no, exactly. I mean, there's different arenas all over the place. I mean, obviously, being from LA, we all know the Caribbean Center. But I mean, I think the International Slavery Museum has just reopened as well, and everything. But I just hope that people will take on board that you guys have a collective knowledge that is worth sharing, not just with young people, but with people of all types.
When we have a conversation in
that's what I just said. People of all types.
We speak about African history on the phone. You know, it's it's not no particular thing. We could just be like spanning from many different years, 10,000 years, 20,000 years, and
but that's what I'm trying to
it's-
say. If you had a set, then you know
Yeah.
what it is that you're covering
Yeah.
and everything.
Oh yeah, because any time you're doing a workshop presentation,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you'd have to have a theme and
No,
stick to
exactly.
the theme because you can't, you'll never cover everything anyway.
Which is why I'm trying to say it's
Even
got to
if
be
you
more
try.
than a one-off there, Patrick.
Yeah.
I was just, looking out for you there,
So
But
just to finish off, when you was talking about the book as well, I'm going to give it one last plug. It's available on Amazon Books, but it's also available in News from Nowhere on Bold Street.
I
in
was wondering
Liverpool
when you were
City
going to
Centre.
say it because we are in Liverpool.
Yeah,
but
it's available News from Nowhere. It's full address, 96 Bold Street.
Yeah.
It's more near the top end going towards the bombed out church.
Yeah.
You can go in there and purchase a copy. You may be able to order it on the website, www.newsfromnowhere.org.uk, or give them a call on 707-7082.
give up the phone
Don't
number,
quote me on
bro.
that number, it might be wrong, but check the website anyway.
Nah, the website is fine.
But yeah, it's definitely there.
Yeah.
And you can get a copy.
Yeah.
Pass the information on. Because as I said,
Hey, man, well,
hopefully
no.
people enjoyed the story. I'm relying on word of mouth to get
Well,
it
I
out
hope
there.
you enjoyed the fact that we gave the time for you to actually explain a little bit more about the story because, again, like I said, I think it's an important story to share with people. But our
Definitely,
time is actually
the
up.
return
Simon.
project, we're definitely pushing for it at the same time, and it is a great idea.
Yeah.
And hopefully, eventually, maybe you can do like a proper cultural exchange where you do it globally.
Well, you
know?
know, we all have to have dreams, man. But the main thing
Yeah.
is it has to start somewhere. Like the seed and the acorn, whatever that story is. Gentlemen,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to thank James Diboe and Patrick Graham for joining me here on the Community Podcast.
Welcome.
And I'm Chase Johnson Lynch, and we're out of here. Peace.
Bless. Yes.
Thank you.